Before I get on to today's episode, just a reminder, everyone, if you've never left a rating review for this particular podcast, please consider doing it today. It would really give the show an SEO boost. It helps with the algorithm. And platforms like Apple, Spotify, they actually use listener feedback as a bit of a guide on who they should and should not recommend the show to. So if you've been enjoying the podcast, you've been listening to it for a while, please give it a rating review. I would really appreciate it. Now, let's get on with this particular episode. Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. The podcast is designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. Now, I said that a little bit slower because someone said to me recently, I say that way too fast. So my guest today is Abid Ali, and he is a musculoskeletal podiatrist from Coventry, West Midlands in the UK. And his business name is called Biomechanics Clinic. Now that's, instead of CS at the end, it's an X, if you're not quite sure what that all meant. If you go to my show notes, I will have all the links to his clinic, his personal site, and some of the online courses that he has coming up. So Abid, how are you doing today?
Good. It's been a busy day. We've just nearly completed an extension on the property here, so we're expanding and trying to grow the clinic. So I've been dusty and messy and sweaty all day long trying to clear up the mess. But it's great. It's good that we're having some progress and seeing things grow. It's been a journey.
And you told me that it's just after midnight at the moment where you are in the UK.
It is just after midnight in the UK and first thing in the morning for you, I think. Is it 9 a.m. over there?
Yeah. It's great time now. I've already gone to the
Yeah.
gym, done all that, come home. I'm ready to go, and you're almost ready for bed. So if anyone's watching the
Yes.
video, if you notice him nod off at any stage, you know why.
Yeah, please forgive me if I slur at any point through this discussion.
Okay, so before we get into talking about biomechanics and some other areas of podiatry, always interested, what got you into podiatry in the first place? How did you come across this crazy profession?
So I was a bit of a sports enthusiast anyway, so martial arts, rugby, football, this sort of stuff. Various injuries over the years, and eventually I had knee problems, and I got used as a case study patient at a physio clinic because they were struggling to figure out what was going on. And they had a teaching session, and a guy came in, special guest came in, who at the time I didn't know anything about podiatry, but he looked at me walking up and down and said, "Right, okay, you're gonna come down to my clinic, and I'm gonna make some plastic things, stick them in your shoes, and that's gonna sort your life out." And just could not process that. So at the time, I was from finishing school, got into sports therapy, massage therapy, and then this guy came and said about plastic in your shoes. Completely threw me. Anyway, I went along with it. He did his thing with orthotics, and lo and behold, my knee pains all went away. So I was sold from that point, but I didn't know at that point I was going to end up in podiatry because I am unfortunately another failed physiotherapist. I think I heard a couple other guys on your show.
Yeah.
So that was my dream to be a physio. So I chucked everything into it. I did loads of placements. I got a job as a care assistant. I worked in care homes, nursing homes, you name it. I did everything, whatever I could do, because of course it's a very competitive industry, and managed to get a couple of interviews at a few universities, but unfortunately didn't make the grade. So life collapsed. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I ended up starting a business course at uni because I thought if I can't do what I love to do, what I want to do, then at least I'll try and do something that makes me some money. So a week or
That's a
two
good
into
point.
it, yeah, I thought this is just not me. It was just not me. So I was at Salford Uni at the time, and I was just looking for the answer to. I just felt so uncomfortable about what I was doing. I went down to the careers office and I picked up the UCAS book and I just started going through it. And then I saw podiatry and then related that back to some of my previous experiences. And I thought, okay, let's see if I can get into this. So bear in mind, it was a couple of weeks into the course. I simply made a list of all the podiatry universities in the UK and I called them and I called them and most of them said, no, sorry, too late. You're going to have to wait a year, wait a year. And then I got to the very last one and he said, well, as it goes, somebody dropped out just today, this morning. So if you can get here in 3 hours, I'll interview you. And if you're good enough, you're in. And so podiatry was born. From that point, then I just chucked myself into it, hook, line, and sinker. I spent a lot of time, even when I was studying from the first year, going to extra courses, extra training. I just got into biomechanics and any other little bit I could get hold of. I spent a lot of time with Ian Riley at the time
Yeah.
doing surgery stuff. If you talk to him, I even helped him paint his house one summer because I hung around holidays, weekends, whatever it was. I didn't go home. I stayed at uni for the 3 years just trying to fill myself up with whatever I could. I just grew more and more passionate about it. Ended up spending a year with a placement with Jonathan Small.
Oh, yeah, we
At
know
the
him.
time,
He's
yeah,
been on the show a few times.
yeah, he's sort of around, isn't he? People know of him. A very clever guy, and he's got his work smarter, not harder principles, which are fantastic. He's a
Smart
cool
man.
guy, very cool guy, and he's just down the road from me.
Oh, right.
I
Okay.
don't- yeah, literally what 7, 8 miles away. But anyway, at the time, he was doing some fantastic gait analysis stuff. He probably had one of the only systems in the UK. There was a huge room. They were working in the neuro rehab hospital in Leamington Spa. And again, I spent time with him, and then I spent time with other guys, Phil Wells and Dave Dunning, and then ended up doing postgraduate stuff at Staff Uni with Natchi Chokalingam, doing all the theoretical and clinical biomechanics. So chucked myself into it, foot, line, and sinker. My
What was it
first job
before you go
was,
any further though? But what was it about biomechanics that interested you?
I think, because I'd come from that background of sport
Yeah.
and therapies and physio and all whatever that was, it just made natural sense to me. I
Okay.
did as much enjoy all the other aspects of podiatry, but particularly that was my first love for sure.
Yeah, and what I find interesting about all that too is you get some people go, "Oh, I'm not very good at biomechanics." We go, but if you want to be better at biomechanics, just listen to what you've done, where you've gone out of your way to spend time with people who you know are better at it than you, and said, "Hey, can I shadow you?" And I've had so many people over the years used to approach me and say, "Can I come in your clinic for the day?" Yeah, I never said no to anybody. And most people, like Jonathan Small and Ian Riley, all those sort of people, will just say yes.
Yeah, I think as a profession generally we're a pretty nice, easygoing bunch,
Yeah,
and we're a small crowd really, so we'll generally get on. I don't think there's any major politics going on in the profession. We're all in the same sort of situation. I think patients are getting more complex, the health landscape's getting more complicated. We're all in the same boat, so it is absolutely great to be able to help each other out where possible.
yeah. So
Um,
anyway, continue with your story since I interrupted.
where did we get to? Okay,
Oh,
so
you're about to start
so
your
then.
first job, I think.
First job then was
Okay.
Scholl. We were talking about language earlier, weren't we? But yeah, Scholl was my first job. Scholl was the Scholly Dolly, so I started doing the chiropody, podiatry stuff, and then they decided that they wanted to do biomechanics stuff more, and so they started to launch their whole biomechanics thing. So I took lead with that. I'd already was doing stuff part-time, working with Phil Wells at Salts Healthcare, and we were just looking at all the different types of orthotics and materials, and wherever I could get experience, I was just going out. I really didn't care whether I was earning any money or it was costing me anything. I just was hungry for knowledge. I
Yeah.
really wanted as much as I could possibly get my hands on. I read a lot of books, read a lot of texts. Eventually, then, after a couple of years at Scholl and working all that out, I managed to get my first NHS job, which was at the time at Coventry Hospital. And I did all the general routine podiatry. And again, I was really keen on the MSK stuff, but I just couldn't break in the door because there was a couple of guys already in there, and so they had a bit of a monopoly on it in a way. Then, not long after, it was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years after, a position came up at Warwick Hospital, just down the road in Jonathan's neck of the woods. And that was when the NHS was launching MSK frameworks. So the idea was that orthopedics at the time was struggling with pathways and long waiting lists, etc. The new Labour government had just come in and they were completely overhauled the NHS. And there was a bit more money around than there is these days. So these MSK frameworks were set up initially really to help to get orthopedics on track for an 18-week pathway. So the idea was from the point where they've been to see the GP, it would take a maximum 18 weeks for that whole journey to occur, from
Okay.
seeing the GP to being referred, to being assessed, to being processed, and then to having whatever intervention was required. So that luckily enough opened doors for me. It was just right time, right place. It was band 7 at the time. I managed to work up to band 8. 8A with it, and working with physiotherapists, with orthopedic guys, rheumatology, and pretty much I had an open book. So they were like, "Well, what can you do? What can you offer?" And I was like, "Well, okay, so mainly it's orthotics, really." And so we started with that, and then after a little while, I realized it was a little bit limited. I thought, I should be able to offer more because the whole purpose of me being was to stop people from getting to orthopedics or whatever
Mm.
I had in my toolbox was available really. But of course, within the NHS, you don't really have much therapeutic equipment. So I started on acupuncture, I did mobilization, manipulations, therapy, whatever else I could chuck into the mix. I just tried it all.
So they
And
were
then
open
eventually
to new ideas.
they were just like, look, dude, this is the point. We've got to just stop these referrals getting to ortho. So whatever you can do, just
Okay.
crack on. And it really just left me an open book. I wasn't just working at Warwick Hospital at the time, I was also working down the road at Milton Keynes Hospital. And again, it was the same setup and situation. Look, we've got all this money, we need to set up these services, this is the task. So I was coordinating between the two. And the thing is, no, and before I'd done that, I'd done a lot of locum work in about 15 different hospitals as well. And what I really noticed was that there was such a difference from one trust to another, from one hospital to another, from one geographical area to another, what they had available, how the teams were, the local politics, etc. was so different. So it was an interesting experience trying to set up these MSK services at two hospitals at the same time because there was such a great variation but ultimately I had a lot of support and it was just really left open for me to design it as I saw fit. And the intention really was to add in podiatric surgery, all this. I won't get into that because that's a whole nother
Yeah.
kettle of fish. But I stuck with what I had. And then eventually I worked with closer and closer with orthopedics. I was within the orthopedic clinics, helping them, running them, seeing patients. And it occurred to me one day that these guys do a lot of injection work. So there's one particular surgeon I work with who, when he first qualified, and I heard stories about him, he told me himself, he was very surgery savvy. So everything and anything that walked through the door was getting surgeried. He said at the time there was an operation for everything, which, okay, fair enough. But as we know, you can't replace feet. You can
Yeah.
replace knees and hips, sure, but you can't replace feet so easy. So I soon saw that there was, and don't get me wrong, orthopedics are very clever, intelligent, awesome guys. Love them to bits. But this guy had come full circle. So he was more going for pain management stuff because, of course, there's a lot of arthritis in NHS. There's a lot of OA, subtalar joints, ankles, midfoots, toes, whatever. And of course, main option was fusions. And of course, one thing I'll never forget, he said to me, look, most of our feet patients are patients for life. So I'd see them keep coming back, keep coming. Well, we've fused that bit and we've done that, but hang on, I've got pain here now. And so they'd be back in for another surgery and surgery. So eventually he became more pain management savvy. And I saw them doing lots of injections in theatre. They take these cases in as a day case procedure, which obviously has a cost to it. And they were doing joint and soft tissue injections, like a
Okay.
whole list of the in the morning. And one day it occurred to me that if I'm trying to stop stuff getting to orthopedics, trying to save some money for the NHS, maybe I should start doing this stuff. So I got started with the support of my orthopedic colleagues. And then, of course, the natural evolution.
Do it. Was it the orthopedic guys that taught you to do it? You had to go and do other
Not really.
courses.
I did the courses again. I went to do Ian Riley's course and I did a
Yeah.
few other things. And basically, you get the certificate of competency, but you still got to bite the
Pra-
balls and go and get on and do it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
of course, you're absolutely crapping yourself for the first several months a year. Oh no, I've killed him. Is he going to come back? Because you don't get to see them again for 6 or 8 weeks. And when you start doing invasive procedures like that, a bit of intrepidation about it. But after a couple of years, we've seen the whole cycle. And do you know what? This stuff kind of works, I think. You can't cure it, but you can definitely manage symptoms and improve the quality of life. So, of course, then the evolution from that was to start doing ultrasound and ultrasound guided stuff. And that really opened up a whole nother realm of MSK once we started. And I started that in, when did I graduate? That was 2003. So about 4 or 5 years into it when I started. So I've probably been scanning for about 12 years or so. And that was within the NHS as well as doing bits and bobs privately. I'd sort of been dabbling around in private clinic all the way along my NHS career, which was 16, 17 years altogether. I left now 2, 3 years ago.
Was it your own
And
private clinic or working at other people's private clinic?
working at other people's clinics,
Okay.
whether it was a physio clinic or another podiatry clinic or whatever. I was always dabbling with private on the side, but I never really had any idea of setting up my own private practice. So I was NHS through and through. That was hard work to get to that position, and I wasn't planning on leaving it. And then kids came along. Then I realized that, hang on a second, these guys eat and
Oh, don't they?
they cost money, yeah. And I
And
was
they
like,
grow.
well, here's my, and they grow and they give you hassle and anyway, we love them to bits. But I looked at my wages coming from NHS and looked at what was going out. I was like, hang on. this don't work. And the only next step for me in NHS was to try and move up the management and career ladder. I kind of maxed out with as much clinical as I could do, unless I was going to go down the pod surgery route. There was no other extra things I could do clinically. So I was trying to get up onto the executive management ladder, and I started dabbling into it. And then COVID came. COVID hit us, and that all kind of went
Oh, the
dead.
COVID
And
years, yeah.
just yeah, luckily I got transferred to A&E for a good while because obviously the clinics were, so I was helping out the nurses and the doctors in A&E. But it was dead. The last place anybody wanted to come was the hospital at the time. So
If you
um,
had gone down the management route, you would have made more money, but then you wouldn't have been doing the clinical stuff that you actually enjoyed.
yeah, it was going to be one or the other. But I felt because along the journey, I'd managed to get myself a role at the Institute of Podiatrists, which is another body other than the Royal College.
Yeah.
Actually, it's older in Bristol. So, long story short, I managed to get a role there as chair of education. I'm still with them. I'm now vice chair. So I got involved in politics and organizational stuff, and I felt that I'd gained some skills over the years. And I thought, you know what, I think I could run this ship a bit better. And I really had a passion for the NHS. I could just see where there could be cost savings and where we could make efficiency and improvements. And I was wearing I used to say to me, if you cut me, I'll bleed blue because I was living and breathing NHS through and through. But life changes.
Just before we go any further, when you talk about the NHS bleeding blue and blue, and is it like one of those things where you've got the NHS, you've got private practice in the UK, and when you're really ingrained in the NHS, are you like anti-private practice, or it's different?
I wouldn't say anti, I would say it's just a whole different bag. I mean, for example, one of the first problems I had in private practice was charging people money. Yeah, I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
okay, so I've done the treatment, so give us, do you know what? Just have it for half price, I go for free. So I've become desensitized to money and finance.
Ah,
Of
yeah.
course, you sort of see it and hear about it all day long in NHS, but you don't physically have to handle transactions or charging people for the services that you provided. So I found in private land it was a whole different skill set. But I decided that I needed more money, more cash, try and feed the kids. So with a very small budget and a few little ideas in my brain, and actually biomechanics was like the third or fourth incarnation of the business model that I just was trying to get right. I had 1,200 quid. I remember clearly, and the wife was swearing and screaming at me. She was like, "No, you can't give up your job and your pension and your wages and all the security and etc." And I just had this feeling, this intense feeling that I had to do something different. So on a budget of 1,200 quid, I had enough money for a plinth and a little table and chair, and I had enough rent for 2 months. And I didn't
Yeah.
know what was going to happen after that. I had no clue what was going to happen. And somehow people came, I earned a few quid and paid the bills, and then managed to scrap a bit together to
So
start buying equipment.
did you just rip the band-aid off? Did you just quit the NHS and go straight to your private practice full
No,
time,
no, I
or did
didn't.
you
I did
transition?
both. Yeah,
Okay.
I did both. I just worked every hour that God has given us and just did it all. And so it was like what do they say? You got to sort of build up your sideline and then at some point you can make the break. And I was really worried because I was only doing 2 days, so I'd left my Milton Keynes job at that point. I was doing 3.5 days NHS and 1.5 days private. When I decided that it was finally time to make the change and leave NHS, which was the biggest decision of my life for sure. I never ever envisaged that I'd even entertain that idea. But you just go off your gut. And I was really worried. I was worried, what, will I be able to fill up 3 days a week? Because I calculated if I could get enough patients for 3 days a week. Bearing in mind, 99% of my work was always MSK. I'd kind
Yeah.
of left chiropody podiatry stuff way back. I mean, I dabbled in diabetes and all that stuff, but I knew MSK was my bag. So, of course, then I'm competing for patients with orthopedics and sports guys and this and that and physios as well because I was doing something different. A friend of mine coined a phrase, hybrid practitioner, because I don't just do podiatry. I kind of evolved and gained other qualifications along the way, sports therapist, etc., etc. And it was just bringing together, for me, MSK is the whole body. It wasn't just looking at the foot. And again, with the biomechanics that I learned, you have to look at the whole body. You
Yeah.
can't just look at the foot in isolation. You've got to look at the bigger, more holistic picture. So it's just natural evolution to look at other things, other treatment modalities. Actually, is the frustration. Actually, what happened was I'd had a bit of a back problem myself, right? And my wife's Chinese. We went to China for a trip. And on the way home, just before we were due to leave, I put my back out. It was something that was bugging me for years and years. And of course, with my sort of medically orientated mind, I was like, get me the paracetamol, ibuprofen, whatever. I've got to make this like 14-hour journey back home. I don't think I'm going to survive. Anyway, they bundled me off to a local private clinic where they stuck things on me and did things to me for about 20 minutes. And I got up and I walked with no pain. I was like, what is this jiggery pokery that's, and I came to learn it was cupping therapy. Yeah.
Okay,
And they sort of
that
released a
worked.
little bit of blood and it bloody worked. I mean, I had back problems for years. I'd seen chiros, this, that, and the other. Nobody managed to seem to sort it. A couple of treatments of that stuff, and I was like, never had a back problem. And it lasted as well. It lasted a year or two. And that really opened my mind up to the alternatives and different options. So I studied homotoxicology, I studied different sorts of therapies. And then, of course, when we left NHS and started private practice, and at the time, the COVID thing meant that steroid injections were sort of limited. Yeah. And a
Yeah,
lot of my work was steroid injections. And of course, because we didn't know how COVID was going to affect us and we didn't know about the immune system issue with the steroid injections, there was almost a sort of semi-ban across the land. It was seen as if you're going to do a steroid, do it with caution. There's a couple of papers that had come out from an anaesthetist guy and whatnot. So anyway, I was working with another company, Celtic SMR, and they were like, "Oh, we've got these first generation, these lasers and things, and don't know if you fancy it, but do you want to try one to see what it does?" I'm like, well, yeah, I'm kind of looking for other options, and with all the other therapies that we had in the background, oh, yeah, well, let's try it. So we got one, and we played with it, and treated patients with it, and I was like, oh, yeah, it seems to be doing something, but I don't know. Anyway, I came to learn more about lasers and then realized that there's lasers and differences and variations. And we got involved in a couple of the different types of lasers. Again, I'm careful not to name names and stuff. And it works as another modality. And then, of course, then Shockwave came along and all the other bits that we were doing. I was just found that you don't have to be a one-trick pony. There's
yeah.
options and there's price. Just because I think the NHS got its knickers in a twist way back when about the evidence base. And of course, it was like, oh, we're doing all these therapies and things. Because if I talk to physios from the sort of 70s and 80s, they had a lot more equipment. They had gadgets. They had electrophoresis things, ultrasound, inferentials, all sorts of gadgetry. But it's more modern physiotherapy don't have as much of that in an NHS setting. And I thought, well, if it doesn't kill you, let's try it and see. We're not likely going to make it worse. It's either going to do something or it's not. And it's really hard to get evidence base for therapies anyway, because how do you measure it? How do you
Yeah,
measure the
I know
effect?
my physio jokes around all the time when I go there if I've hurt something, which is fairly regular. And he'll say, "Oh, I can put ultrasound on it if you want." I went, "No," he said, "I could even turn it on at the wall for a change." He said, "I'm
Yeah.
not convinced it does anything."
Yeah, it's hard to get the evidence, but I think if you treat people, I mean, we know from research papers the placebo effect is massive and it's a known
Yeah.
thing. Even in the world of injections, I saw people where is it what we're injecting? Is it the actual solution? Is it just the penetration of the needle? Do we get similar effects with saline solution as steroids? And so it's just an open bag. So I think as long as you're not going to cause your patient damage or harm, try it and see because what are the alternatives for them? A lot of my work was, well, if I can't fix it, you've got to go and see the surgeon and see what he can do with it. So I was prepared to chuck everything and anything at it and explain that to my patient. I don't know if it, and I still to this day, I was like, look, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but if you're happy to try it and see, I'm more than happy to provide it. So let's give it a go.
And I
So
think that's the
over,
difference sometimes too when you're in a clinical situation and you're dealing with a lot of patients on a regular basis. Yeah, you're moving them through. You've got to make quick decisions on things. And then those people are coming back on a regular basis and you're getting this feedback loop constantly. You start building up like a history of what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes it's not what we were taught at uni. It's completely different to what we were taught at uni. And
yeah,
sometimes it's different to what the researchers are presenting at conferences. They're saying this and you go, oh, that's not what I'm finding in my clinic. And then sometimes you then to keep that to yourself because you're too scared to share it with people because you're going, oh, because what I'm doing is not what anybody else is
yeah.
doing. And
Yeah.
that's information I think sometimes needs to be shared.
Yeah, I think you sometimes just got to bite the bullet and try and see. Like I said, as long as you're not going to damage anybody. But
Yeah.
also, people are different, and you probably have seen similar to me that over time and with experience, you get a feeling for people a little bit, and you can, in a way, pick the ones that you think things will work for and the ones that won't. And we have options. It's good to have several options. It might be orthotics, it might be a mobilization, a manipulation, it might be a stick and acupuncture needle, it might be an injection. We've got quite a lot in our repertoire, and I think we should, as a profession, spend more time with other therapists. I've spent a lot of time with chiros, physios, and these are really clever guys with very different backgrounds to podiatry, but there's so much to learn from each other. I think generally the lines are blurring between the different specialities and allied health professionals. I see chiros doing orthotics, you've got a sports therapist doing orthotics. The thing is, there's more than enough feet out there for everyone, and we are a small profession. But I think if you really want to get MSK, you should have perhaps think about having more options other than just orthotics. It's nice to be able to evolve
Yeah, I
your
think part of the
practice and
problem too is we're a small profession, but then when you look at within the profession, you get even smaller again, the ones that actually want to do biomechanics and want to do orthotics. And there's other groups that don't want to touch it at all, which can then get very confusing for the public when, oh, I've got a foot problem. I heard they make orthotics. They go to one podiatrist who makes them, and their friend goes to another one who knows nothing about biomechanics and doesn't want to do orthotics. From the community looking at the profession, I'll be going, that's really strange.
Yeah, yeah. And it's whether or not I mean, in the old days, there was more of that going on in NHS, but I think generally speaking, with NHS stuff, we're much more wound management, a lot more diabetes. I think orthotic budgets have reduced quite a bit. I mean, again, it's very postcode orientated, but the landscape is changing, and there's loads of work in that arena if you want to drive it your way. But of course, it's having a practice with enough size and space to be able to perform
Hmm.
full-on examination. And where do you get the experience? So if you've not got good links and contacts with other practitioners, it's really tough to get that in NHS nowadays.
So you said that you have just expanded your clinic. So you have had
Yeah.
your private practice, what did you say, about 8 years?
It's now from the start. This will be the eighth year, I think. Yeah. Bear in mind, I started just me, myself, and I,
Okay.
and now we have five full-timers and three part-timers, and that's a combination of sports therapists, physiotherapists, and podiatrists. So I had a three, four-room clinic, and now we've got a seven-room clinic with a nice big biomechanics space, which will also double as a gym and also double up as a teaching room because I'm very passionate about. I have from day dot done a lot of educational stuff anyway, but I've not been very good at promoting and marketing. I'm not great on social media,
Yeah.
interacting with Facebook and all the groups and things. I just can't. And I've been way too busy anyway, trying to build a business, look after kids, yeah, educate yourself. I mean, I've had to do extra training on management courses. Yeah, and then I did some university-based courses, and there was a hole, there was a big gap, even though I thought I had a good idea how corporate things work. It's the whole money and profit and losses and all this sort of stuff. And it was a minefield. From going from being a lone practitioner is one thing. When you want to try and grow and expand and become a clinic or a practice,
Yeah.
it's a whole different set of skills.
It's one of those things that if you don't know how much a patient costs to have them in the clinic and you employ other podiatrists and they're not charging the patients accordingly, not rebooking them back in, because sometimes, depending on what the expenses are with your clinic, sometimes that initial consultation, you make nothing from it. By the time you pay wages, your rent, your marketing, everything that goes with it, that patient coming in, say, spending $100, no, you get nothing. It's not until they come back that you actually start making money each visit. So if you've got podiatrists that aren't trained properly or who don't understand that, that's why some businesses can be really busy, but they're just not making any money.
Yeah, I had the sense that there was, and I'm learning a lot and I'm still learning, but eventually I realized that I needed some more specific coaching. So I got myself a coach in podiatry, and I haven't looked back since. And I could not have got to where we have in the last year or two without that knowledge and without that backup. And yes, it was expensive and it was a big worry. Again, the wife was giving me a kick in for spending even more money. Yeah, I get it in the neck a lot because I'm good at spending stuff, but I go off my instinct and my gut a lot of the time, and now I'm learning that you can't do that. That doesn't quite work in the world of business and clinical stuff. You got to really know your numbers, and you got to know all the ins and outs of, as you said, all the costs and everything. Otherwise, you can end up being a busy fool, I suppose. Yeah,
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like any, whether it's sport or anything else, anyone who's good at what they do, say we're talking about sport, there is a coach in the background who is because they can see things that they don't see. And if you've never had a business before and you're just learning it all by this flying by the seat of your pants, and that's what I did initially, it is a long, hard road, a lot of mistakes, a lot of financial mistakes that you make. Whereas if you get someone who can actually say, hey, this is what you need to look at, this is where you need to work on, because they've done it before, you what you're paying them, you will make back 10 times over
I
easily.
totally agree. Massively.
And
I couldn't see it at
I'll
first.
point out that I'm not your business coach, just so if people think I got you in here because you're my client. No, we don't work together in that way.
Yeah, there's many out there. I don't know
There's
if I should
heaps out there.
name
And
someone.
I reckon people should, if you are considering a business coach, is have a look at them all, have a quick chat to them and just think, who do I gel with? Who do I fit with? And then choose someone. But if it's not working out, leave and go somewhere else.
For sure, definitely. It is a worry, but we get so busy working in the business, it's
Yeah.
hard to have the energy and the time to look at the bigger picture of where you want to be. And it's different for all of us, isn't it? Some are happy to be lone practitioners, others want to go and develop. For me, it was the point of trying to start making a business rather than me being a lone practitioner was, well, hang on, if I go down, if I'm sick or if I'm ill or there's no income coming in, so what can I
Yeah.
do about that? And so,
Like Jonathan Small is a solo practitioner and he is extremely happy and does really well from it. I know other guys in America who've been solo practitioners for over 20 years and they have a lot of podiatry assistants working with them. And they said they never want to employ another podiatrist. They are just really happy being the podiatrist. And when they want to take holidays, they just take holidays. They just close the clinic and been doing that for 20 something years and they do really well from it.
it's the greatest thing, isn't it, that our profession that it's as much or as little as you want to make of it.
Mm.
You can really make it fit the lifestyle that you want to have.
And you can pick
Um,
parts of podiatry that you really like and you can hone in on that. So if it was nail surgery, you can put a big focus on that. If it's biomechanics, if it's orthotics, if you really love high risk diabetic feet, you can really target in that area. But this is something we spoke about before I press record. I believe that
yeah,
every podiatrist should have a sound understanding of biomechanics.
for
And
sure.
if
It's
they
just doing,
don't, they should go and do courses and learn about it.
yeah, yeah. And it's just doing justice for your patient, really, isn't it? They trust us, they respect us, and they will listen. I'll often not just focus on the foot. Well, okay, so your foot, so how about your knees? How are your hips? How are your back? Have you got any other problems I need to know about? And while you're feeling around and says, well, hang on, what's this big lump of muscle here or this huge knot there? What are you doing with that then? That's probably affecting your gait as well. Oh, right, okay, I didn't even realize, didn't know. Well, I think we can deal with that. Go and see my sports therapist chap there. He'll iron out all those knots and things and hopefully give you a bit more muscle function and we'll look at the whole holistic picture. There's so much you can evolve in an MSK practice, and it's
Yeah.
great to have all the different disciplines with all the different viewpoints all working together under one roof. So truly blessed that we've managed to get to this point.
Yeah. And I said before too, it'd be like if someone came, I've had people come into my clinic with shin splints. I could have just focused in on that. Could have just focused in on the biomechanics. But while they're there, I just did an overall assessment of everything about their feet, just had a look and picked up a melanoma on their foot. Yeah, underneath their toenail. They said, you should go and get that checked out. They did, and it was a melanoma. And they just went,
Wow.
oh, I'm so glad you picked that up.
Yep. Yep.
And so to me, it's someone comes in with a biomechanical type problem. You still overall look at everything else. And that's why I think anyone who's just doing routine foot care, if you're not at least asking them the question, what do you feel like when you get out of bed in the morning, or do you have any other problems? And if they say yes, if you don't want to look at it yourself, you should be referring them on to a podiatrist down the road that you have a relationship with to at least get the assessment done.
Yeah, for sure. We should be good at checking people. Check, and double check, and that's what people should expect, rightly, isn't it? If you go to your GP, you want him to pick up his
Yeah.
stethoscope or his ear thingy and check you over and have a look. And right, okay, well, give you a bit of basic overview. So yeah, I think we have that responsibility to be able to give our patients our best possible knowledge and care. And if we don't know, we don't know. Just nobody's going to drill you for saying that. The point is that at least you've said it and pointed it out, and you've pointing them in the right direction for where they can get help. So you've done your bit. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to take on a whole complex case of care.
Yeah.
There's There's other
Yeah,
people that can
and their
help us.
clinic,
It's
you know,
part of the team.
I know some people have got a small routine care clinic or foot care that they may not have facilities to have a grinder to adjust orthotics or to be doing gluing. They just don't have facilities to be doing that, which is fine. But don't neglect your patients. If you know that there's a problem there, get them to see somebody else. And I don't think it will make the whole profession look more professional if someone goes in with to get their toenails cut, but then all of a sudden they notice, hey, there's a deformity here. You should actually get this checked out. Here's a podiatrist I recommend that you go and see.
For sure, yeah, it's having that overall holistic view on your patient, and when in doubt, refer.
Yeah. So, which leads on, this is a good segue into
Yeah,
you have some online courses that we're going to talk about.
Y-
Advance
yeah,
your
yeah.
clinical practice with expert training at Biomechanics with an X Academy.
Yes, so yeah, I'm going to take my experience with sports therapy, physiotherapy, osteopathy, chiropractic, whatever I've picked up over the years, all the different courses and training, all the clinical experience we've had from doing orthotics for trillions of NHS patients, and then of course morphing into the private practice where it's less forgiving if you make a mistake or do something you shouldn't have. So it's looking out for those pitfalls and just another avenue, another different type of thinking. There's some really clever guys out there running biomechanics courses already. We've got some really cool guys in the profession, but here's another version, my tuppence worth on it, and with my variations on it. And we're launching that. We're launching ultrasound. Well, we've been doing this for a while. We've trained quite a few guys the last couple of years. It's the mentorship bit that people really can struggle with. Again, in the old days, you'd go to your NHS practice and go and tie yourself in with a radiologist or something and
Yeah.
get your experience that way. So obviously those days are not so easy now. And a lot of us also are in private practice where you haven't got the support maybe as much and you're out on your own. So it's having a group where we all can come together under one banner and also help people get the mentorship and support to get the qualification. But then the point is it doesn't stop there. Your mentoring does not stop, it carries on. So you join part of our group and then you get forever ongoing mentorship and care because things come up. I've been scanning that long. I've seen it so many times. The amount of times just when you think you've figured it out, like most things in life, you think
Yeah.
you've sussed it all out, and then wham, a curveball comes and oh my God, what the heck is this I'm looking at right now? And where do you go if you're an independent practitioner? Even if you're in NHS, it's not so easy to get to your other colleagues. So there's all that backup and support available there, and hopefully we're going to try and get more people because I firmly believe ultrasound is the future for us all in MSK, and it's changing as well. Ultrasound and AI and all this stuff is coming in, so I think you get a good grip on it now. The future, I think, will become simpler. The scanning, we've got algorithms, AI things will be able to help you direct your probe. It will help you to make your analysis of the image that you're looking at. It'll help you optimize things. So there's a lot of really cool stuff coming. It's good to have a pour in it, I think, and for sure it's growing. It's growing a lot. I've seen it grow massively over the last probably 3 4 years. And again, I think people just it's just risk, isn't it? You don't want to make a mistake
Yeah.
with anything that we do. So, and of course, the way to overcome that is with as much knowledge as training as you get. I must have done umpteen courses in ultrasound before I even did a more formal qualification. And still, I work with Adrian Berman, who's a sonographer, probably one of the best I've worked with, and we both jointly run that course. And then what's the other one we got?
Well, I'll go through. You've got like on the website, which I'll put a link in the show notes to the website where these courses are. First course you
Thank
have
you.
is practical biomechanics of the lower limb and computerized gait analysis. Goes 1 day. The next one
Yep.
is practical mastery of orthotic prescription. 1 day in
Yep.
person or a live virtual workshop.
We work with an orthotist, a very well experienced orthotist on that course as well, and we have a combined experience. So with all the courses that we run, we have brought in specialist knowledge from other practitioners and providers to give you that difference edge. Not many of us get a chance to work with orthotists, and again, they're very clever, cool people that do a little things a little differently to
Yeah.
some of the things we do.
Yeah. The third one you got here is CPD and podiatric sports medicine. And the
Yeah.
fourth one is musculoskeletal examination of the foot and ankle. How many people do you have at each of the courses? Are they large numbers or is it small amount?
We're going to have about six. Six, I think, is about the right number. Yeah, because
Okay.
we don't want to have it too big and too massive. We want small groups where they're going to get the full emphasis because it's about the practical bit. We'll have all the theory bit and on a course, laid out. You can log on and go through the material yourself. But the day is to really get the knack of the practical skills. So, okay, here is a foot. Right, let's do all the MSK tests because again, in the profession, I found I soon ran out of stuff to do in podiatry. So I ended up going to a lot of other courses for GPs, MSK things for GPs, went to a lot of courses for orthopedic guys and for some of the other disciplines. So you don't just have to look within podiatry, you can look outside of it. And
Yeah.
nobody's ever said to me, no, you're a pod, you can't come on this course. What the hell are you interested for? In fact, the opposite. So it's good to look outside because, again, for the NHS stuff that we did, it was about being an extended scope practitioner. That was the sort of key term. So I took that literally and thought, well, let me extend my scope of practice then and see where we end up with it.
Yeah. Well, a few
So I
of the
certainly
podiatrists I
encourage.
know that have done really well in certain areas, they've all gone off and done courses from other professions, which is where they've picked up the information. And I really love the business side of podiatry, always have, and just business in general. And when I'm running workshops, some of the crazy things we do at the workshops, like picking locks and teaching people how to juggle and drawing a peg, all these sort of things, people realize, well, why would you do all that? But there's a thing where it messes with your head a certain way. But the other part, there's simple steps that when repeated, you can learn almost anything.
Interesting. I need to
So,
check those out.
yeah, well, I'll be doing another marketing workshop in the UK, probably for the Foot and Ankle Show in 2026.
It's great. The more courses, the more information out there, the better. We're here to support and help each other to grow and develop and just become better people.
So before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to say to close off with?
Just that I think also another reason for developing yourself is to help to encourage the next generation. I'm big on that. I know
Oh,
we're
good
lacking
point.
numbers. We're not attracting as many new guys to the profession. So again, I want to help, and we have been with my institute on helping to promote the profession more and trying to gain more interest. So again, if we're doing more of these, there's so many subspecialities within podiatry anyway. We just hope that we can help to encourage the next generation into it.
That's a really
There's
good
no
point.
sh
I'm just writing that down. And it's like anything. If you want to be more attractive, you've got to be more attractive. So if we want to attract people into podiatry, then we've got to make podiatry look like a profession that's very attractive that people go, ooh, that's a little bit sexy. I want to go and check that out and have a look at it and go,
Yeah.
hey, here's all my options. Whereas if podiatry is only ever seen as sitting on floors in nursing homes, clipping toenails, digging corns out of people's feet, it's not very attractive. Now, I know
Yeah.
that's still important, but it's not attractive. It's people are not going to be young kids aren't going to come through and go, oh hell yeah, that is the job for me. I'm a sports person. I want to sit on the floor
Yeah.
and trim people's toenails in a nursing home.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
We've got to make it glossy. We've just got to
yeah.
gloss it. Yeah.
And
And
even though
showcase
yeah,
some of the high points as
yeah,
well
and
as
even
the
though that is
standards.
part of what we do, to me, that's not how we promote the profession. See, what was interesting for me when I got into it, I knew nothing about any of that stuff. All I knew
Yeah.
was sports, orthotics, sports podiatry, biomechanics. I knew nothing about the routine foot care. So I was
Yeah.
sucked into this profession because of that side of things. And whenever I've seen the profession promoted and they talk about all the other stuff, if that's what I had seen as a 18-year-old, I wouldn't have done it. I would have gone, nah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's like some of the stuff I've learned in marketing stuff that we've been doing over the last couple of years. It's not what you're selling. So I used to go with, right, well, I've got this gadget and I've got that gadget.
Yeah,
Let's tell the world that we've got it. And then I came to learn through all the coaching stuff that no, it's the emotional sell, really. You're trying to get that emotional point across. It's not about what you're offering, how you're offering it. And so if we can gloss up the profession a little bit and market it a little bit better and differently, and it's not just an institutional job, that's for each and every one of us to help
yeah,
promote the profession, really. So,
it's
yeah,
true.
otherwise, who's going to look after us by the time we got to the age that we need to call on?
Well, it's how we represent ourselves when we're out in public as well. It's how we dress. It's how we carry ourselves. It's how we talk about the profession. When people say, how was your day today? Had a great day. What do you do? I'm a podiatrist. And you're talking in a really positive manner, then that's always going to reflect better on the actual profession.
Yeah, luckily we got some good guys in the profession, and hopefully we can get some of these new grads in.
Yeah,
And
well, it's when Zane was on here, Zane Hussein, the benefits of being a fit and healthy podiatrist. And he was saying the same thing. You get a group of physios together and they look like a group of physiotherapists, healthy, young, fit. He said,
yep,
then there's sometimes you look at some of the podiatrists and they don't look after themselves as well. And it doesn't mean we
yeah,
all need to be ripped like you and I, but
oh,
oh, just
I'm working
people,
on it. You got
people
me
are
back
watching
in the
the.
ring. You got me back in the ring, Tyson. I've started training again, so let's see if we can get rid of this dad bod.
That's funny. It was when I was at the foot and ankle show talking to a few people and just other people I speak to in general. This is the positive influence you can have on other people. Is because how old are you now?
47.
Yeah, so I'm 59 in about a month. And when people know that I go to do Muay Thai 6 or 8 times a week, and you're just talking about different things that I'm doing, I see people who are younger go, oh, shit, if Tyson can do that, then I've got no
Yep,
excuse. So then,
yep.
and I think it just, when you're doing things like that yourself, it does inspire people around you, whether you know about it or not.
Yeah, sometimes you know it all in and out, but you just need that little word to just change your mindset a little bit and send you off in a different direction. So same that what we had about a 10-minute chat at the foot and ankle show,
Yeah.
and almost the next day I thought, right, well if Tyson can do it, then what am I doing sitting on my fat behind? So I'm
I
back
saw
in the
my
gym.
daughter,
Thank you very much.
my daughter's 21 this year. Her and I have got an abs competition this year.
Oh,
So in December, who's going to have the best set of abs?
right,
Now,
six pack.
ah, she's winning at the moment, which, like I said, I keep telling her, I'm just pacing myself. But I know by me just doing this challenge with her, one, I do look up myself a bit better, but it's really making her become more aware of the exercise she does, what she's eating, just her whole routine of doing things. And I've seen the positive effect it's had on her over the last 6 months that I'm sort of
Yeah,
like, I don't care whether I win or not,
yeah,
which probably unlikely that I will. But if I
yeah,
do, you will know about it because I will post it on Facebook.
yeah.
If I win the abs challenge, it will be on Facebook.
Right, I'll expect that 8 pack then.
Oh, yeah, watch this space. So, Abid, I want to thank
Awesome.
you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast. This has been fun. You got a lot of energy, which is fantastic, and I think this is what the profession needs. So, thank you very much.
No, thank you for your time and putting up with me because I know I cocked up the timing on the first one, so sorry about that. But hopefully you'll let me off with all the stuff I've been going through this last few months. But it's been
Yeah,
great. Thank you very much for your invitation. It's been an absolute ambition of mine to one day talk to you on this show. So I hope I haven't talked too much waffles and people pick up a nugget or two from this chat.
no, it's been fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome, Tyson. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Well, if you're still here, that means you are ready for this week's Easter egg or the secret message at the end of the podcast. As I mentioned before, I don't always do this, but I'm starting to do it a little bit more often. So keep an eye out for it or keep an ear out for it each week. Today, I want to talk about it's a marketing topic, and it's one of those things where marketing doesn't just stop working. There's always signals to look out for. And there was a webinar that I was on recently listening to it, and they were talking about the difference between trends and weak signals. So sometimes when your marketing isn't working or there's something about your practice that isn't working, there are weak signals beforehand, and you need to learn how to look out for these. This is something that I'm going to be working through with some of my coaching clients. And to give you an example, it would be like if you had a professional referrer and they may say, for example, they refer 5 patients a month to you. And then all of a sudden you realize now they're only referring about 4 patients a month. And then it's 3 patients a month. There's a weak signal there that it's slowly starting to drop off. And you might be starting to wonder, why is that happening? But it's not a trend. However, if you have a look at all your referrers and you start noticing all your referrers that used to refer 4 or 5 people to you every month, all of a sudden it's only 4, and then it's 3, and then it might drop down to 2. And this is happening across the board, then you know there's a trend. Something has actually happened that you need to pay attention to. You need to find out why this is actually happening. And like I said right at the beginning, your marketing just doesn't stop working. There's usually signals beforehand, and those signals, when all put together, could lead to a trend. You need to keep an eye out for that, which is why you need to know the various numbers of your business. There's so many different areas of your business you need to be paying attention to. If you already have a business coach, have a talk to them about it. If you don't have a business coach and you've thought about it, please reach out to me. Just send me an email, tf@tysonfranklin.com, and let's just have a chat and see where it goes from there. Okay, I'll have another episode for you next week. Bye.